What if the real reason so many men are walking away from relationships has nothing to do with commitment and everything to do with what they're experiencing before the relationship even begins? For years, we've been told that men are afraid of commitment. But what if that's not the real story? What if more men are choosing to stay single because they've reached a point where they no longer believe a relationship is worth the emotional, financial, or personal risk? Today, I'm going to explore why some men are walking away from relationships, not because they don't want love, but because they believe the cost of finding it has become too high. Let's go. For years, we've been told that men are the problem. We hear things like they're emotionally unavailable, afraid to settle down, allergic to commitment. But that narrative barely scratches the surface, which is exactly why we need to dig into the viral conversation surrounding why men are leaving relationships. What if we've been asking the wrong question this whole time? What if the real question is, what happened that made so many good men stop trying? Today we're going to talk about it. Not to blame women, not to excuse bad men, but to deeply understand the root causes behind why men are leaving relationships, why they are quietly walking away, and what both men and women desperately need to hear before it's too late. I'm Andre Pearson. Let's answer the question everyone keeps asking. Why are men walking away from relationships? Reason 1. Many men don't feel appreciated anymore. Let's start with something simple. Every human being wants to feel valued, but many men today feel like they're only appreciated for what they provide, not for who they are. Think about it. If a man works long hours, pays the bills, fixes problems, protects his family, sacrifices his own wants, yet the only thing he hears is, "You should be doing more." Here's what many people miss. People don't stop giving because they're lazy. They stop giving because they feel invisible. And once someone feels invisible long enough, they emotionally check out before they ever physically leave. That's where the walking away begins. But appreciation alone isn't enough. There's another reason many men quietly disconnect. Reason 2, respect matters more than most people realize. People often say women need love. I'd argue men need love too, but many men experience love through respect. Respect doesn't mean agreeing with everything a man says. It doesn't mean being controlled. It means treating each other with dignity, especially when you disagree. Unfortunately, many relationships today have become competitions. Who's right? Who's winning? Who has the last word? Instead of asking, how do we solve this together? Too many couples ask, how do I prove I'm right? The moment your relationship becomes a courtroom, someone eventually leaves. Healthy couples don't attack each other. They attack the problem. That's a huge difference. And speaking of problems, let's talk about something that's quietly destroying more relationships than cheating ever could. Reason 3, constant conflict exhausts good men. Every relationship has disagreements. That's normal. Conflict isn't the enemy. Constant conflict is. Many men describe coming home feeling like they're entering another battlefield. Instead of finding peace, they find criticism. Instead of encouragement, they find another argument. Instead of partnership, they feel like they're defending themselves every single day. Eventually, home stops feeling like home. It starts feeling like another job. Now, let me be very clear. This doesn't mean women should never express concerns. Healthy communication is essential, but there's a difference between discussing a problem and creating one. If every conversation becomes an interrogation, if every mistake becomes a character assassination, if every disagreement becomes a personal attack, eventually even the strongest man grows tired. Not because he's weak, because nobody wants to live in constant emotional warfare. Peace isn't about silence. Peace is knowing your relationship is a safe place, even when life isn't. But here's where things become even more painful, because many men aren't leaving due to anger. They're leaving because of disappointment. Reason 4, men want to feel safe too. This surprises a lot of people. We often hear that women want emotional safety. That's absolutely true. But men need emotional safety too. A man who opens up about his fears, his failures, his childhood, his insecurities is taking a tremendous risk. Unfortunately, many men have learned that vulnerability eventually gets used against them. They hear, "I wish you'd open up more." Then months later, during an argument, the very thing they trusted you with becomes ammunition. Once that happens, many men make a silent decision. I'll never be that vulnerable again. Not because they don't love you, because trust was broken. Real intimacy isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's knowing your weakest moments won't become someone else's weapon. When a man feels emotionally safe, he gives more, he trusts more, he loves more. But when that safety disappears, so does his willingness to stay emotionally invested. If you've made it this far, I want to hear from you. Do you think men are walking away because relationships have changed or because expectations have changed? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a respectful conversation. The next reasons are even more important. We're going to talk about accountability, why many men no longer feel needed, how social media has changed dating, why loyalty has become more valuable than ever. And the one thing many couples overlook that quietly destroys trust before they even realize it's happening. Let's get into that next. Up to this point, we talked about appreciation, respect, peace, and emotional safety. But now we're getting into the reasons that cause many men to finally say, I'm done. Because walking away usually isn't one big decision. It's thousands of little disappointments that slowly convince a man his effort no longer matters. Let's continue. Reason 5. Many men feel like they're always the problem. Here's something we don't talk about enough. In today's culture, whenever a relationship fails, the first question often becomes, what did the man do? Now, let's be honest. Some men absolutely deserve criticism. Some lie, some cheat, some abuse, some refuse to grow. But not every failed relationship is the man's fault. Healthy relationships require two emotionally mature adults, not one perfect person carrying the entire emotional load. The strongest couples understand something powerful. When conflict happens, they stop asking, who's to blame? And they start asking, how do we fix this together? Accountability isn't weakness, it's maturity. The moment one person believes they never have anything to improve, the relationship stops growing. Good men aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for someone willing to own their mistakes just as much as they own theirs. Because accountability builds trust. Defensiveness destroys it. And that leads directly into another issue many men rarely admit out loud. Reason 6. Many men no longer feel needed. For decades we've heard, I don't need anyone. On the surface, that sounds empowering. And to a certain extent, being able to take care of yourself is healthy. But relationships were never built on independence alone. They're built on interdependence. The healthiest couples don't need each other because they're incapable. They choose each other because life is richer together. Many men naturally enjoy protecting, providing, leading when appropriate, solving problems, making life easier for someone they love. Not because they believe women are incapable, because contribution gives many men purpose. When every attempt to contribute is rejected, corrected, or treated as unnecessary, a man slowly begins asking himself, why am I here? Everyone wants to feel like they matter. Women do, men do too. If someone never feels needed, eventually they'll find somewhere they are. But perhaps nothing has changed relationships more than what we're about to discuss. Reason 7. Social media has changed expectations. Let's be honest. Many people aren't comparing their relationships to reality anymore. They're comparing them to highlight reels. Every scroll shows another luxury vacation, another engagement ring, another perfect couple, another influencer telling you, you deserve better. But here's the problem. Comparison quietly destroys gratitude. Instead of appreciating what's right in front of us, we begin chasing what looks better on a screen. Some men feel like they're competing with unrealistic expectations they'll never satisfy, no matter how much they do. Someone online always appears richer, more attractive, more romantic, more successful. Relationships don't survive on fantasy. They survive on commitment. Real love isn't filtered. It's messy. It's ordinary. It's choosing each other after the excitement fades. And that's something social media rarely celebrates. Which brings us to something that good relationships absolutely cannot survive without. Reason 8. Trust has become harder to build. Trust doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes one broken promise at a time. One lie, one secret, one betrayal, one conversation hidden behind a locked phone, one flirtation dismissed as, it didn't mean anything. The strongest relationships aren't built because people never make mistakes. They're built because both people protect each other's trust. Transparency isn't control, it's consideration. When people volunteer honesty before they're questioned, they're saying, I value your peace of mind. That changes everything, because once trust disappears, love has to work twice as hard just to survive. And many men simply don't want to keep rebuilding something that's repeatedly torn apart. But here's a reason many people never consider. Reason 9. Men want partnership, not performance. Many men aren't searching for perfection. They're searching for partnership. Someone who celebrates victories together, faces hardship together, builds together, laughs together, dreams together. The happiest couples aren't asking, "What can I get?" They're asking, "What can we build?" A relationship isn't two people competing for attention. It's two people carrying the weight together. Sometimes one carries more, sometimes the other does. That's life. But if one person constantly feels they're carrying everything, eventually they set it down. Not because they stopped loving, because they became exhausted. Great relationships don't happen by accident. They're built through thousands of small daily decisions to choose one another. Final reason, the greatest reason men walk away after everything we've discussed. Here's what I believe is the biggest reason. Many men no longer believe they're valued for who they are, only for what they provide. If they earn enough, they're attractive. If they struggle, they're disposable. If they're strong, they're respected. If they're vulnerable, they're criticized. Eventually, many men ask themselves, is love supposed to feel this lonely? And when the answer feels like yes, they quietly leave. Not because they hate women, not because they're incapable of love, but because peace begins to feel easier than constantly proving their worth. The tragedy is most of these men didn't stop believing in love. They stopped believing love existed for them. Here's what I want every person watching to remember. This video wasn't about proving men are right. It wasn't about proving women are wrong. Healthy relationships have never been built on blame. They've always been built on understanding. When men feel respected, they tend to give more. When women feel emotionally safe, they tend to love more freely. Neither side wins when we're constantly keeping score. The goal isn't domination. The goal is connection. The strongest relationships aren't built by two perfect people. They're built by two humble people who refuse to let pride become more important than partnership. If we can learn to appreciate instead of assume, listen instead of accuse, support instead of compete, then maybe we'll stop asking why men are walking away, because more of them will finally feel like they're walking towards something worth protecting. If this video challenged the way you think about relationships, let me know in the comments. Do you believe men are walking away because relationships have changed, or because our expectations of one another have changed? I genuinely like to hear your perspective. If you found value in today's conversation, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if today's discussion opened your eyes, don't stop here, because in the next video, I'm going to show you the biggest mistakes both men and women make that silently destroy relationships before they even realize it's happening. If you want stronger relationships instead of stronger arguments, click that video on your screen right now. I'll meet you there.